Okay, without further ado, our presentation tonight is on Mary Whetstone and the history of the MMS with Heather Erickson. Heather is an award-winning author and a professional SEO content writer and researcher. And she has been researching Dr. Mary Whetstone, the founder of the MMS, for quite a while now. And I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. So take it away, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to this presentation of Mary Whetstone, History Revealed. We're going to look at who was Dr. Mary Whetstone. She was a physician, a botanist, a botanical collector. She was a feminist, a leader in civic welfare, and active in church and temperance work. Born August 24th, 1849 in Pennsylvania, Mary Snoddy was educated in public schools and female college in Granville, Ohio. She received her medical degree from the University of Michigan Medical School in 1881, and she attended clinics around the world in places like London, Paris, Vienna, Detroit, Boston, and New York. Then in June of 1882, she married Dr. Allen S. Whetstone in Marshalltown, Ohio. And the couple moved to Minneapolis, where Mary would become only the second female doctor to practice there. It would be only the beginning of the ground that she would break. So while we're all here to learn about the significance that she had as a mycologist and as the founder of the Minnesota Mycological Society, I think it's also important to see her as a whole person and to understand what sparked her interest in mycology. So we will start with her contributions to medicine in Minnesota. Thomas Barlow Walker was an American business magnate who acquired lumber in Minnesota and California. And by 1823, he was among the 10 wealthiest men in the world. He also became a prominent art collector and founded the Walker Art Center, as well as the Minneapolis Public Library. Thomas and his wife, Harriet, lived in Minneapolis with their 8 children. Harriet Granger Walker was a powerful woman in her own right. She was president of Northwestern Hospital from 1862 to 1917. She was president of the Bethany Home. She was a member of the Women's Council of the City of Minneapolis, Hennepin Avenue Methodist Church, the nonpartisan National Women's Christian Temperance Union, and the Minneapolis Association opposed to the further extension of suffrage to women. And this is kind of interesting because Mary Whetstone was a suffragette. And here she was partnering with this woman who was opposed to furthering suffrage. But Harriet had a lot of connections and she knew how to put them to use. So in November of 1882, she invited her circle of friends to come and listen to Dr. Mary Hood speak on the problems of the poor and their lack of health care. And as Mary Hood told one story after another of children suffering from malnutrition, diphtheria, and tuberculosis, Dr. Mary Whetstone chimed in. She said women were dying from typhoid and pneumonia. And in the city hospital, there were rats and standing water in the hallways. So Mrs. Walker decided that these women could come up with the money to build a charity hospital for the poorest women and children in Minneapolis. And that's exactly what they did. 1 month later, the Northwestern Hospital for Women and Children began in a rented house on 3.5 Avenue South. Within a year, they put down a payment on a bigger house and filed articles of incorporation. By 1887, the hospital had built a permanent home on the corner of Chicago and 27th Street with Doctors Hood and Whetstone as the hospital's physicians. And they were the only physicians, so they had just 2 women physicians as their doctors. And this top picture on the slide is that the big house that they got. Today, the hospital is Abbott Northwestern Hospital of Amanita. Then Dr. Whetstone was also part of the pediatric medical staff at the Asbury Methodist Hospital when it opened in 1892 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It had 32 beds, and it would later become the Methodist Hospital after moving to St. Louis Park in 1952. Today, that hospital is Park Nicollet Methodist. Hood and Whetstone used diet, cleanliness, and rest to cure their patients. According to Dr. Hood, she said, "We depend largely upon nursing to sustain the vital forces and so help nature gain the victory. In many severe cases, our good nursing has come to the rescue. Frequent bathing, clean linen, and good nourishing food given regularly, and the quiet rest induced by the confidence of good care are the secrets of our successful issues." This was often enough to help these tired, poor, half-starved women and children to recuperate from whatever illnesses they had. And it's important to note that Dr. Whetstone was also the second vice president of the State Medical Society, which is now known as the Minnesota Mycological Association. And that is an extremely powerful position for a woman in that time period. Oops. So when Doctors Whetstone and Hood founded and served as administrators of the Northwestern Hospital for Women and Children in Minneapolis in 1882, they were just the beginning of a movement. By the 1890s, there were 68 women doctors registered in the state of Minnesota. Women could also be found practicing law, as clergy, and as educators in ever-growing numbers. There were even 43 female county superintendents. But even though the number of professional women were growing, inequality remained. The 2,306 male teachers in Minnesota averaged a monthly salary of $46, while the 9,811 female teachers earned only $38 a month. Florence C. Bayer, the secretary of the Medical Association, records, "The Women's Club of Minneapolis met in regular session Wednesday evening, March 27th, in the medical library rooms. The paper of the evening was by Dr. Mary Whetstone, and it was entitled Foods and Their Value. It was a scientific presentment of the chief foods upon which we rely for sustenance, the relative proportion of the food principles which each contains, and their value in forming a correct diet. Discussion followed and was closed by Dr. Whetstone." It was Dr. Whetstone's desire to find alternative sources of nutrition, specifically for the women and children she served in her medical practice, that first sparked her interest in mycology. The Minnesota Mycological Society is the second oldest mycological society in North America. It was founded in 1898 at the initiative of Dr. Whetstone. The society was incorporated in 1899 and has been in continuous existence since then. Mary Whetstone corresponded with nationally known mycologists of her time, seeking help in identification. And today her collections can still be found at the New York State Museum in Albany and as part of the C.G. Lloyd collection, also known as the National Fungus Collection, as well as other places. Now, during my research, oops, did I miss this slide? I think I might have. Okay, we're going to go here. During my research, I had the privilege to read the letters that Dr. Whetstone had written to Dr. Charles Peck. Dr. Peck was a leading mycologist from 1868 until 1913. And this period coincided with the professionalization of American mycology and was a time of intense work in descriptive taxonomy of fungi. Dr. Peck was self-taught in the identification of fungi, and although he was given a position as the botanist at the New York State Museum in 1868, His love was mycology. During his career, he described more than 2,700 new species and varieties of North American fungi. And although fungi are evolutionarily more closely related to animals than plants, historically, mycology was a branch of botany. Dr. Whetstone sent her first letter to Dr. Peck on November 3rd, 1898. Along with this letter, she sent 9 mushrooms which had been collected by MMS members to Dr. Peck for classification. And each was accompanied by a fungi memorandum. Now, this would ensure that the recipient of the specimens would know where they were found and when they were found, under what conditions they were growing, how they appeared when they were fresh. And we continue this practice to this day. About the Minnesota Mycological Society, she stated in this letter, we organized a mushroom club. About October 11th, we have about 20 enthusiastic, intelligent members. Except Miss Flint of St. Paul, none of us know much and have no specialist here to aid us. May we send specimens to you for classification when we are able to name them? We have Hayes' Fungus Hunter's Guide, McIlvaine's Key, Sicardochromataxia, and have ordered Massey. Can you name any or send anything else to aid us in this study of mushrooms? What would you suggest for us to do in the winter months to continue our study and interest? For the present, we shall continue to meet every Monday. I have the honor to be president and Miss L. Flint, secretary. And I particularly enjoyed this because we still try to figure out what we're going to do in the winter months, and we still meet on Mondays. It's interesting to read about some of the early activities of the Minnesota Mycological Society. They're very much the same as ours today. I especially enjoyed reading about the club's exhibits at the state fair whenever the subject would arise. In Dr. Whetstone's second letter to Dr. Peck, dated September 19th, 1899, it reads, "You will be interested to know that through our influence, we've aroused quite an interest in the mushroom. We made an exhibit at the State Horticultural Society last June, which was quite incredible and much appreciated by members and visitors. They offered $5 in premiums for an exhibit at their fair September 8th. The weather was favorable and the club active, and we were able to keep a large exhibit of fresh ones during the whole week. And one of the members was present to answer questions. And although it was placed among the fine fruit and flowers, nothing attracted so many visitors as the mushrooms. The press often spoke of it. Fair managers were gratified, and the Mushroom Club much encouraged. I wish we had someone like yourself here to help us identify specimens. We're using our membership fees to purchase books and photographs." A year and a half later, in another letter dated April 16th, 1901, she added a postscript. "You may be interested to learn that our society had a fine large exhibit at the state fair that excited great interest and curiosity. The state offered a $39 premium. And this year, we expect them to offer $50. 5 years after that, in a letter dated February 13th, 1906, Dr. Whetstone writes, "We had another large exhibit at the state fair last September. They attract more attention than all the other exhibits in the agricultural building. How much we wish we had someone like you to look in on it and help us identify some of them. Last year, we had several botanical students and mycologists there studying them, but no one who knows more than some of us do. Still, we are doing good missionary work in awakening interest in this subject." And I thought that was really cool because if you go to the state fair and you see one of our exhibits, that's exactly what it's like now. From Dr. Whetstone's correspondence, we can also learn much about what the MMS was coming across in terms of mushrooms at the time. In her letter dated October 26th, 1900, it reads, "We have quite an enthusiastic club here now. Some members have time and talent to classify many now. I venture to send you what I think is a clitosoby that I cannot find a description of. It is very common here. About some of our flour mills, they are found in great numbers. These I send were found in a lawn that was once a dumping place. Correspondence between Dr. Whetstone and Dr. Peck continued throughout the remainder of his time as the New York State botanist. Dr. Whetstone continued to send him specimens, and he would help her identify and would give her resources. Throughout this time, Dr. Whetstone herself became well known for her expertise in fungi. In a letter to Dr. Peck, August 25th, 1911, she writes, "The mushrooms are very plentiful this season. You will no doubt smile when I state that I am considered the leading authority in the region on fleshy fungi. The newspapers have helped the people think so. The result is I get more than I can possibly study. Sometimes when I feel impatient of the many demands made upon me, I recall how patient you have been with me, and I take courage and take up my burden again." Somehow, a few of Dr. Peck's letters made their way into the collection at the New York State Museum. And this was a real gift because it gives us his voice in their conversation. Dr. Peck wrote to Dr. Whetstone on October 24th, 1911, "Dear Mrs. Whetstone, your letter of October 18th, giving an account of the tragic result to a poor family from eating mushrooms without knowing their character, was duly received, and I have delayed answering, thinking I might hear from you in reference to your trial of the supposed injurious kinds on yourself. I would refer number one to Flammula spumosa. Number two, the smallest one, I fail to recognize. The specimens are all young, maybe a foliata. Number three, Foliata autumnalis. Number four, Foliata ornella. I've never tried any of these, but would not regard them dangerous, though I would not think number one very agreeable in flavor. Very truly yours, Charles H. Peck. P.S. Imprudence in eating such a large quantity at once and lack of proper treatment seem to me to be the factors in producing such bad results." Other interesting people of note in the world of mycology pop up in Dr. Whetstone's letters to Dr. Peck, including one of our own club members. L.F. Lambert. Dr. Whetstone wrote of him to Dr. Peck. L.F. Lambert, a member of our club, is manufacturing mushroom spawn of a superior quality and has succeeded in making cultures of Pleurotus ulmarius and is growing it in soil mixed with sawdust. He's experimenting with some boletes and other mushrooms. He expects to do considerable along this line next summer. He has large caves in which he cultivates them for sale. On October 31st, 1911, Dr. Peck writes, "Dear Mrs. Whetstone, your letter of October 27th was intensely interesting to me. Your experience with number three, though grievous to you, will be a most important addition to our knowledge of this species and possibly save others from incurring danger of eating it. If I can get specimens of it here, I will have it analyzed and publish it as a deleterious species. Your account of Mr. Lambert's success in the cultivation of various kinds of mushrooms is also of great interest to me. Tricholoma personatum, I regard as fully equal to the common mushroom in its edible qualities, and according to Mr. Lambert's experience, much easier to cultivate. I thank you most cordially for your letter and am very glad that your experiment was no worse. It was bad enough as it was. Very truly yours, Charles H. Peck. In 1903, Louis F. Lambert created the first pure culture spawn, which was produced in St. Paul, Minnesota. And his spawn was sold to farmers who grew mushrooms in caves above the Missouri River and was a revolutionary development for growers. They could now reliably produce a single strain of mushrooms instead of the mixture they got when they used imported English versions. By 1907, Lambert's American Spawn Company was marketing at least 7 different pure agaricus strains to growers around the country. And around 1915, Lambert moved his operation to the heart of the mushroom industry in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. There, he bought a property where the company still exists and thrives today. And I just think it's really exciting, and I'm a little bit proud that that came out of the Minnesota Mycological Society. As I was researching Dr. Whetstone and reading her letters to Dr. Peck, one mystery evaded me. And that was, why did Dr. Peck name Amanita whetstoneae after her? Her letter dated May 22nd, 1912 reads, "Dear Sir, by the same mail as this, I am sending you some mushrooms that puzzle me. They resemble licata, except for an unusually long root. I've not gathered them, nor have I talked with the person who did gather them. Weather is favorable to the growth of mushrooms. Today, Corpinellus micaceus and Clitosope multiceps were sent in. Morels are plentiful also. I'm investigating this case of poisoning, and if I learn what he ate, I will report it to you." Her next letter, dated May 31st, 1912, is when I learned about what I believe to be Amanita whetstoneae. "Dear Sir, your kind letter of the 27th is at hand. No wonder I could not locate the specimen. I'm glad it proved to be a new one, and I thank you for thinking to name it after me. But if an adjective can be found given its principal feature, I think it would aid science to use that more, especially as I did not find it myself. By same mail as this, I am sending you what I have been naming Tricholoma myalucium, but a member questions it. Also, some specimens of Inocybe, and the nearest describing it is fibrillose. Sorry, I'm not really great with all these words, but that has no mention of white edge of gills. And when these get old, the pilus is lacerated much on the margin, and seals on same disappear. I saw a newspaper report of the case of mushroom poisoning at Marshalltown, and I judge it was due to ingesting too many. His son was a physician, and I presume he gave the correct history of the case. I wrote for more information, but I've had no reply. Mr. C.G. Lloyd wrote to me that your picture would appear in his next bulletin. I shall be very glad to see it there. Yours respectfully, M.S. Whetstone." Then, near the end of his letters, I came across, oops, I'm sorry, I missed this slide here. This is the first time I've done a PowerPoint, by the way. Then near the end of the letters, I came across one that was not written by Dr. Peck. Usually when I read of mushroom poisonings in the paper, I would write to try to learn the variety that they had eaten. And if I find I've seen that I have any of them, especially if I've communicated with Dr. Peck about them, shall I send you those? And as I read further, I see that she's written this text on a letter which was actually sent to her. And she's forwarding the letter on to Dr. Peck's successor, Homer House. And the letter was written to Dr. Whetstone from a doctor in Howell, Michigan, and it's dated September 3rd of 1912. "Dear Doctor, the mushrooms eaten were partly the pink-gilled ones and partly white-gilled toadstools, and they were eaten on Sunday, and the 2 women were taken violently ill in the latter part of the night, while the 2-year-old child was not ill until Tuesday, but was the first to die. Mrs. Hubbard was a very fleshy woman and probably a voracious eater. Her mother, 62 years of age, ate less and recovered, but the child was not equal to the task. Another physician was first called, and when they did not improve, I was called on Tuesday. I found them with severe amitocarthosis and muscular cramps and great prostration. As nothing was retained, I used hypodermics with bismuth per ounce. I gave calomel and soda, and later lime water, milk, and whiskey. All violent symptoms subsided several hours before death, and it seemed as though they would recover, but died of collapse. There was a profound sedative effect besides the gastrointestinal irritation. Toadstools seem unusually poisonous this year, as we read of so many deaths from them. I've had cases before, but no deaths from it until these. The next letter I have from Dr. Whetstone to Homer House is undated, but we do know that Dr. Charles Peck suffered from a light, oops. I'm going to show you that. Okay. We do know that Dr. Charles Peck suffered from a light stroke early in November 1912, and then a severe stroke in 1913. In 1913, he presented his resignation letter as state botanist, but it is not until January 26, 1915, that it was accepted by the University of the State of New York. Dr. Peck retired from his job after 48 years of working at the state herbarium, and Homer House succeeded Charles Peck as the New York State botanist. Oops, okay. I'm still on the wrong one, sorry. There we go. Dear Sir, the day your letter reached me, I found the letter of dear Dr. Ford's, which I will gladly enclose for you. If I may help and you desire, it was separate from all of Dr. Peck's other letters. This was received from him after I had written him of the death of 2 boys that were killed by eating poison mushrooms in the town of New Ulm in this state. If you can find my letter to him, you'll understand better, for I failed to be able because of all the particulars. You need not return it. Now that I know that you desire such letters, I hope to be able to send you more, but I cannot do it at once as they're packed away in boxes in a cold room that I cannot visit now. The letter reveals that Dr. Peck was interested in Mr. Lambert's work with the cultivation of mushrooms. He now has what I am informed is the largest mushroom plant culture caves in the North. If you desire to learn about them, write to his brother, Leo C. Lambert. Ask for his brother's address and mention our acquaintance. Thus, you may learn more than I can tell you. His brother sent a message to our society when we were having our state fair mushroom exhibit to send him a large giant puffball. We had 2 sent in, and we sent both to Mr. Lambert, and he sent our society $10 for them. If you learn anything about what he did in scientific experiment with them in the way of cultivation of the puffball from spawn, kindly inform me. I have not questioned either of them. The mushrooms written about to Dr. Peck, I am not certain, but the only time I recall being injured from them was from eating Lepiota marjani. When I first recall eating any, that made my mother and I quite ill. If I could get any more, I know I would have sent some to Dr. Peck. In looking over Mr. Peck's letters, you may find my letters about them. If you do, kindly let me know, or loan me the letter to read would be better. I think that I have all the letters, but I've moved twice since then, and they're packed away in a cold room in which I cannot work until warmer. I would like the balance of Dr. Peck's reports that I do not possess, and shall report on more as I can. Very cordially, MS Whetstone. Please excuse this writing with a steal. My fountain pen is out of repair. On July 11th, 1917, Mr. Peck died at his home in Mainans, New York. Dr. Mary J. S. Whetstone was corresponding secretary of the Minnesota Mycological Society when she died of pneumonia in her home on October 24th, 1929, at the age of 80. Her husband had died 20 years earlier. During her lifetime, she changed the medical system of Minnesota, opened doors for professional women, and quietly added to the body of mycological knowledge, one specimen at a time, one letter at a time. Ronald H. Peterson, Professor Emeritus of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology of the University of Tennessee, best summed her mycological network up like this. The Minnesota Mycological Society was founded in 1899 as the second oldest such organization in the country. Boston was the first 4 years previous. For some years, its founder, Dr. Mary Whetstone, was corresponding secretary. Her considerable correspondence and apparently associated specimens, usually fresh, with Dr. Charles Horton Peck, Curtis Gates Lloyd, F.J. Brandel, and others, often led to identifications and return letters. It's been my privilege to study Dr. Whetstone, and I continue to study her and the many facets of what made her a truly remarkable person. I would like to thank a few people. Oops, yes. I would like to thank the New York State Museum and Diana Hurlbut, who did a lot of scanning and sending of documents, because without them, I couldn't have learned everything that I had. Thank you to the Minnesota Mycological Society for all the knowledge that I've gained as a member. And Ronald Peterson, I look forward to reading your paper on Jacob Lang. You've been a greater encouragement to me than you could know. And my kids for giving me pointers on Zoom presentations. And thank you to Split Rock Studios for their amazing work on the signs, which are going to be used in next year's State Fair exhibit. Mike Otis is a great project manager, and Nan Hildebrandt is an incredibly talented graphic designer. This poster that you see on the left hand of this slide is one such poster. It has an actual letter from Dr. Whetstone to Charles Peck, and it mentions the State Fair, and then I have the transcript below. And then the next one is an amazing timeline that was put together of all, not all, but some of the really major highlights of Dr. Whetstone's career and some things that she did. And then finally, I would like to invite anybody to join us. We still have the State Fair special going on, so you get the remainder of this year and next year's pay for next year, you get the rest of this year for free. So and you can read on here all of the amazing things that we do, and it is just really an amazing club to be a part of. And we have a really incredible history that it's really fun to see that today we are continuing the heritage and the things that were begun so long ago. And so, yeah, anyway, that's about all I have to say. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Sorry, I wasn't so great with slides, but this is actually my first time of ever doing it.
Wow, Heather, you did an amazing job. Everybody give it up for Heather, please.
Thank you.
It's amazing to know that over 120 years later, that just the rich history that you presented, I know we'd all be friends if we could meet each other. And I think it's pretty cool that she founded the hospital that I was born in. So she, allowed the current president of the society to come in this world safely. So that's amazing. What an amazing woman. If we have any questions, feel free to raise your hand so you can get unmuted, or ask in the chat, please. I actually have a question. I was wondering if you saw in one source, there's a source that says we were founded in 1889 and not 1899. Did you come across that one?
I saw that we I saw in 1889, 1899, when she arrived in Minnesota. Maybe it was 1882, 1892. I saw discrepancies as to when she arrived in Minnesota, but I didn't see any discrepancies as to when we were founded. But there is like when we were founded, and then there's the date that we were incorporated, which was like a year later. But yeah, it was the 80, 88 and 89. So if anybody says it's 99, they're wrong.
Awesome. Let's see.
Kathy?
Yeah, I bet you're so good now at reading those old letters when you look at, I mean, besides how formally people wrote, which I found really touching. I was feeling a little teary about some of the things. Just like how the script is. I bet it was like an experience just to learn to read that old-fashioned writing.
It was, and one of the things that was a little bit difficult were the names of the mushrooms, because many of the mushroom names are different now. And so, not only was I kind of dealing with, okay, this might look like this, or it might look like that, because normally you can kind of guess by context, but with mushroom names, you can't. And so I had even sent a letter and my transcription to John and John and Ron, and they were like, I don't know how you can read this. But I had become very accustomed to her handwriting, which isn't the best. She's a doctor. She's a doctor through and through, but yeah, no, but I had become accustomed to it. And I think part of it, is they're writing with a pen, and if they make a mistake, it's not like now we've got spell check and we can go back and erase things. And if she's just writing and she's thinking, and sometimes the grammar is off or whatever, but I got very used to it because I started to feel like I knew her and the way that she wrote. And it was kind of fun to become intimately aware of somebody's details like that. John?
Oh, yeah.
John? You're on mute. I think John had a question, but he's on mute.
While we
You're on
figure.
mute, John.
Okay, I knew I was on mute. I was waiting for Tim to unmute me. Okay,
Oh,
so I just totally want to reinforce what you're saying, is that I am amazed that you were able to cipher or decipher what was written. I spent 30 plus years reading logbook write-ups of pilots, and I got pretty good at it, and there's no way I could read the letters that you were sending. I mean, I could pick out a word here and there, but it was, especially the mushroom names. I mean, that was really difficult. So I'm amazed.
it was very helpful to be able to look up some, what I thought it was. And sometimes it would say, this used to be called this, and now it's this. Like, I don't remember which name it was that was in there, but she wrote in one of her letters, and I looked it up, and it's a bluet. The one that they said was as good as any, he was talking about a mushroom that was as good as any, regular old mushroom that you would get, was a bluet. Yeah. And that's what they used to call it, was the name that was in the letter. So.
Great, we have some info in the chat. So we have a question from a visiting researcher from CUNY, Madeline. She would like to know if you learned of any public-facing writing that Mary Whetstone engaged in for a more general audience, perhaps? And did she continue to connect her mycological work with her work on diets and food value?
My understanding is she did. Her obituary, one of them, because different people did different little tiny write-ups, but she remained a doctor and she was continually in mycology. And so my assumption is she did. Most of her writing had to do with diet and nutrition. And so, but, I have not actually had access to the writings themselves. one of the places that I do want to look is the horticultural, is it the Horticultural Society? No. Yeah, maybe, you know, the plants, wherever the plants are, you know, the plant society, because she was a member of their society and gave talks there. And, you know, in that very beginning, that first letter when they went to the fair and stuff. And so they said that if I wanted to, I could go to their headquarters, and they've got all their old files and stuff like that. So I need to, you know, make time to do that and plan to do that. This is like one of those things you can just keep studying, and I really, really do want to, because she was an amazing woman, and the amount that's been actually written about her is just minuscule. A half a page in the who's who of Minnesota pioneer women. That's it. That's all that's really been written about her. And it's kind of sad when you think about the amazing impact that she had in Minnesota in so many ways. So
That's amazing. Our scientific advisor, Dr. Peter Kennedy, also would like us to know that he has 5 collections of Dr. Whetstones in the Bell collections at the U of M.
nice.
And we're going to see if we can get those in the state fair next year.
Oh, that will be wonderful. Yeah. And I'm going to try and see, you know, what I can do about gathering some things to have actually here in Minnesota, either with the U of M. I mean, I got to talk to some people, or maybe the Hennepin County History Museum, because it's kind of sad to me that I had to go all the way. I mean, I didn't physically go to New York, but that I had to connect with New York to get information on somebody who has impacted our group, our medical society, you know, medical community, our scientific community, the scientific community of mycology in the nation as a whole. And I had to go elsewhere to find it. It's just a little bit sad. And so I am hoping to bring some of that home if I can.
That'd be great. Michael Otis, do you have you want to say something? Is that you, Mike? That's unmuted. Well, we also had a question from Michael Herrick. He wants to know, how many hours of research did you put into this great presentation?
I have no idea. You know, I went on a vacation with my family to a cabin, and that's what I did the entire time. I had my laptop. I was out by the lake, just staring at letters, and it was the best vacation. I really loved it. Everybody's swimming, and I'm like, this is like what I want to do. It was my project. So, and then I of course carried on when I got home, but that was what really got me going on it. So by the time that week was over, I had figured out how to read her writing.
Let's see. Any more questions? If you'd like to be unmuted for a question, just throw something quick in the chat so I can find you.
If Dr. Kennedy is still on, Amelia was asking, are the collections on display in the Bell Museum? I'm not sure.
Can you hear me, Tim? Is it connected? Kathy?
Yeah.
So those are not in display in the Bell Museum. That's the main public museum, but they are in the physical collections that are in the herbarium, which is on one of the buildings on the St. Paul campus. But I think I can work with MMS and Heather to see if we can bring some of those to the state fair next year. It seems like they would be a really nice complement to the to the presentation there. And then I may be able to help a little bit, Heather, with, I've been hearing rumors that there are some potential records of Dr. Whetstones that are in a obscure library that exists as an extension of the Bell Museum. So it's going to take a bit of sleuthing, but I would certainly be excited to try and see if there's any other resources there. So please stay in touch. And yeah, I would love to, like you said, try and see if we can dig up anything locally, because there may be some good records right underneath our noses that we haven't found yet. But thank you for a wonderful presentation. That was super inspiring. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. After we had the guy here to present about the caves, the mushroom caves of Minnesota. He had found a clipping that it was sort of like the MMS banquet for what, 1912 or something, and it listed the dishes and species, which I thought was cool.
Okay. All right. Sounds like that's it for questions, at least for right now. I think this, is going to start a wildfire of research that I would like to dive into as well. So again, thank you, Heather.
Thank
So
you.
Okay. That is the end. Heather and Madeline, I connected you both on an email, so please look for that and talk some more. And yeah, everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
Night all.
you.